What's up, the internet? It's Kyle. Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because I can't hear myself, which is freaking me out just a little.
Nope, I can hear you just fine. You can hear me?
There we go. Yes.
Okay.
Normally I can hear myself in my headphones a little bit, and it keeps me from freaking out. Anyhow, welcome to In Stores this week. I'm Kyle. That's Dan. I was Shrek a minute ago. But
Give him a
anyhow,
new toy.
yes, this is In Stores this week, where Dan and I talk about the books we've read that are in stores this week. If you can come up with a better name for that, would you let us know?
Yeah, we're trying. We're trying to come up with a new name.
All right.
So
I have two more that I think we should try on. Dan tells Kyle what to read this week, and I almost read them all. So
I almost read them all. It's not bad.
Yeah. So
It's not bad.
So I told Dan that he was going to have to vamp to start the show, but then I was able to be fast at my job, and
Something new he's trying.
Yeah, we actually have all of the books loaded up.
Nice.
And ready to go. So I'm going to make Dan vamp anyway. Dan had a great show today breaking down the live action Cowboy Bebop, which I didn't chime in during the show, but I do want to say I am pleased that everyone I've talked to says they didn't screw up the soundtrack.
No, it's definitely a good. They pulled the actual music. So, and I love the opening.
I quite like.
Yeah.
So
now tomorrow we're going to talk. I've got an interview that I'm hoping you've already pulled down. I had to pre-record the interview with Scott Wilkie because, like he has a job and stuff. And 2:00 in the afternoon in LA is a little rough time to do an interview for some people, but he's got this amazing book called Periwinkle. It's a Christmas-themed book, and it's doing a Kickstarter right now. You got to check this thing out. Scott's a lot of fun, and the book looks awesome. So tune in tomorrow for that. On Thursday, of course, we will be doing our spoiler conversation about Hawkeye, which episode 3 drops tomorrow morning, depending on your time zone. So definitely tune in Thursday and we'll talk that. If you missed my thoughts on the first 2 episodes, they're available on YouTube now.
They were basically, it's eh. Am I wrong?
No. What's funny is I ended up watching it again on Thanksgiving, and my feelings of the show are a lot better than they were on the first viewing. Yeah. Because I couldn't get into the Kate Bishop character. It just didn't. There wasn't anything for me to like about her, so I had a hard time. But then once I kind of put that aside and watched it again, I liked the show a lot better, and I'm looking forward to episode 3.
I will say this. My intention tomorrow is to rewatch episodes 1 and 2, and then watch episode 3 in one sitting. I watched them split up, and I'm wondering if the first 2 episodes don't work better when consumed back to back as if it were one long episode.
I think it does. Yeah. I absolutely think it does. So before we jump into the book, I want to throw a heads up to readers who go, hey, that Dan Wickling guy, doesn't he write stuff too? For some reason right now, there's an insane sale on one of my books on Amazon. So if you're looking for an actual printed copy, the second issue of my Lucius Fogg series called Malicious Intent the printed copy is currently available for $3.81. I'm not sure why they would let an actual novel sell for that low, but grab it while it's there, guys. It's a fun story. It's urban fantasy. It's a 1950s noir detective series with in a New York where the supernatural exists in all the shadows. It's kind of like I said, it's a detective series with the supernatural twist. So if that is your thing, if you like Dresden Files and books like that, you'll like this series. And like I said, $3.81 is a cheap deal. And if you have anybody who likes Dresden Files or something as you got to buy a gift for, there you go. So, all right, self-plug completed.
Hold on, I'm shopping. What's this book called?
Malicious Intent.
Can you spell that for me, please?
Look up Lucius Fogg. That'll probably get you there faster.
1G or 2?
2, I believe. Now I have to double check. Yes, 2. LUCIUSFOGG. It's the blue labeled one, Malicious Intent.
I'll find it. There it is. Hey, that's not bad. Well, shoot, for all of them, it's only $24.
Yeah. They're normally $10.99 cover price, but
and how much of that do you get, Dan?
I get like $2 or $3 per book.
That's not bad.
No,
because I'd rather just buy them from you, like when I come and see you at a convention in the future or something, than buy them from Bezos.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Is this something you would have on your table when people come to see you at Comic-Con Revolution?
Yes, Comic-Con Revolution, December 18th and 19th. I always have copies of the Fog books with me, and I will at that show as well.
I'm gonna send JD. He's way closer.
He is.
But I will be appearing at Comic Town in Columbus, Ohio this very coming weekend.
Nice.
Yes. Things that will be on my table are nothing I've written, and also nothing I'm allowed to sell. Only give away. So
do we have any promotional stuff for the experience?
I will send you the PDFs.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting that we're having a glut of conventions right now here in Southern California. We just had the pretend San Diego Comic-Con, and then that was last weekend. This weekend, we're having the LA Comic-Con, and then the following weekend, we have Comic-Con Revolution. And it's like just way too many. I picked the third one, and because I know the guys there, Matt. Our Sig is absolutely great, and the rest of the crew there. So, and not saying LA Comic-Con isn't good. I've been there before a couple times, and it was good. And I do like San Diego, but San Diego is... You have to prepare for San Diego.
People were calling San Diego Sans Diego.
Mm.
Like, it was not normal. Like, it was upsetting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should we get into the books that have come out this week?
Sure.
All right, let's start with a holiday special.
All right, we have 2 of them.
I understand. I'm trying to pick which one. We actually don't we have 3 of them?
Holiday, Grimm Holiday, Sonia Holiday.
Didn't we do an Archie Holiday too?
No.
Okay, that's my bad. That's just one of those books that I was ordering and got mixed up in the list here. All right, then we're going to definitely do because that's not on there either. I have to click the right things. Please hold.
The professionalism.
The Grimm Holiday Special.
Yeah. I'm not sure what holiday this is supposed to be special for, other than it has Krampus. This is horror. This is just outright, straight up horror. And
right, if this is your idea of a holiday story, maybe go listen to that song "Holiday Road" 9 or 10 times to reevaluate your stance in life.
A Lindsey Buckingham callback, very nice.
A National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation callback.
Yeah, but it's by Lindsey Buckingham.
Sure.
Do you know that he was then offered to do the theme for Ghostbusters, but turned it down because he didn't want to be known as the guy that does theme songs?
Well, so did Huey Lewis. I mean, like a lot of people turned down the Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
so anyhow, this is a story that was a little triggering for
Which
me.
part? There's 3 stories in it.
The airport stuff. There were 2 stories that took place in planes and at an airport.
Yeah.
Airports are hellish hellscapes anyway.
Mm-hmm.
If you add the Krampus, especially the way the Krampus is portrayed in the Grimm fairy tale stories, to an airport, it's like when you see that person who's like clipping their toenails while waiting for the plane level of horrific.
You realize that the main gist of one of the stories was that there was a vampire stuck in lost luggage.
Yes. Man Bat was in this book.
Yeah, he did look like Man Bat a lot.
Yeah.
So,
but no, it's 3 tales of the Krampus getting even with horrible people. Basically.
yep. Now, this, of course, is the normal Zenoscope production. So the story is broken down by Joe Bruscia, Ralph Tedesco, Dave Franchini, and newcomer to the company, David Wohl, who's now the head editor. It was written by Jenna Lynn Wright and drawn by Eduardo Garcia, Juan Francisco Mota, Richard Asnaya, and Dario Carrasco. Excuse me. Wow, that was bad on that one.
Yeah, we struggled with that one.
Yep. This, I mean, again, you got the story of the Krampus who's driving this car. I guess he's an Uber. And we start off with this one couple that then gets out of the car, and we go, we can come back to them. And we follow this other guy to the airport, and he's kind of a jerk, but I didn't see any reason for him to get as bad as he got. You know?
I think maybe they were trying to tell a story about what happens to bad magicians.
Well, that was the last guy.
Oh, you mean the guy who was the jerky business guy?
Yeah.
He was a jerky business guy and he yelled at everybody. Screw him.
I know, but this doesn't seem like great motivation for sending him to hell. We should have found out a little bit more about him.
He was kind of misogynistic.
Yeah, but she was flirting back.
I'm just triggered by people like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm all for him going to hell.
Well, yeah, I think that's the point, is the woman flirting back planned to basically seduce him.
Correct.
So, yeah, we don't know what the guy sitting across from him was there for.
Yeah, that was weird. There were definitely some unanswered questions. But yeah, it's just 3 kind of horror romps with a lot of blood and a lot of mouths.
Yep.
The Krampus. I've never liked that their Krampus has that many mouths. That's never how I've seen him portrayed.
Yeah.
Traditionally.
It's a classic Zenoscope horror book.
Yeah.
You know, you got your 3 tales of horror, and you don't feel bad for any of the people who are getting killed or whatever.
Yeah.
But there is a twist in that another demon gets involved in one of the stories, and that's a little bit new.
Yeah, like I said, it's a one-shot romp from them that's not particularly telling any story. It's just feeding into that Krampus mythos that they like to use. So, it was a fun read. It's not a. This is how I always judge the Zenoscope books. In my own way, if I am up against a budgetary constriction, this is not one I would feel the need to pick up this week. I would definitely pick it up and read it eventually.
Yeah.
But it's not I've got to buy this book this week. So.
Yeah. The art's good. The stories flow, but it's just not great. Yeah.
It does the job.
Yeah.
All right. How about one that only I read? This is Maniac of New York. The Bronx is Burning, #1. This is volume 2 of Maniac of New York by Elliot Kalin. The reason Dan didn't get a chance to read it is that most of these books we get digitally so we can share them. This one I only have a physical copy of, so it's not like I could send one to Dan. But this is the second part of the previously released Maniac of New York story. The Maniac has gone away for kind of an undisclosed, undescribed amount of time. It's more than a day, but less than a year. Kind of, he's gone away and he's back. And he winds up breaking into a school where there are some people who maybe aren't the best people, and doing his Maniac of New York thing there. It's certainly starting to paint the Maniac as a little bit less of a terrible person and a little bit more of maybe a misunderstood character. I think in sort of that way that like Michael Myers is sometimes seen as an empathetic character. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But there are also copycats that are a thing. So you're still following the detective who's trying to figure out what's going on, but there's starting to be some light shed on this character. And it's causing you to have feelings about a character that you thought you understood.
Interested.
Yes. All right. Let's do... I only sort of got to skim this one. Is this the cosplay cover?
I believe,
or is this just an amazing piece of art?
I believe it's the cosplay cover.
That makes the most sense.
Yeah. But I don't remember seeing another cover.
There are other covers. This, as it turns out, is the A cover.
Yeah.
Because there are variants that are other, like there's a Mirka Andolfo and a Linsner and a Marco Torrini variant. But this is definitely the A cover of Red Sonja Holiday Special. Which
is interesting because inside the book itself, it says the Linsner cover is the main cover.
According to...
Just saying what's inside the comic.
No, I understand. According to the site that we use,
yes,
the Linsner cover is the B cover.
Ah.
Now, that could just be the website's got them backwards.
Yeah.
I have no way of knowing. So
there's two stories in here, and they're both by Mirka Andolfo and Luca Blengino as the writers. The first one is done by Zuelma Scotto Lavina, with the art on the second one being Carmelo Zagaria. And of the two, I definitely found the second one a more compelling story. You know, the first one is a little bit... preview says the same thing, according to 62 Lefty.
Right.
The first one seems like a take on A Christmas Carol. It's even called Sonia's Carol. And it really just felt like somebody was telling her all this stuff. You know, that she needs to change her ways. And it really did just feel like a take on A Christmas Carol. There wasn't much action in it. You know, we find out that she's basically become a hired sword for a bad person. And eventually, you know, it gets to her. So, but the second story I found a lot more interesting. It's all about this small town that offers up their virgins in a sacrifice. And basically these women dance for 3 days straight until they die from exhaustion or their heart explodes from that. And basically it's a sorcerer is controlling them, forcing them to dance. So it's not like they have free will. He kind of takes over their bodies from the neck down. And he gets Red Sonja in there as well. So it's just kind of an interesting story about her determination and stuff like that, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, like I said, I just kind of got to skim this one. Yeah, the second story. So the first story was definitely A Christmas Carol, which is fair. Like, this is one of the things I want to talk about with holiday specials, right? Mm-hmm. There are only so many traditional holiday stories you can tell.
Right.
If you get too obscure in your holiday stories, people don't understand or don't listen, don't care, won't read them. So you've got to kind of stay in that mainline holiday story, which they do in the first story. Mm-hmm. The second story to me, and again, I just skimmed it, but it kind of felt to me like a little bit like The Lottery, or what are some, like those famous plays, where it's, they have to decide which person in town they're going to sacrifice.
Yeah.
This kind of thing. So it felt a little tropey to me, but the addition of Sonja to it made it interesting.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't fit any of those trope archetypes. So,
plus like they talk about the actual creation of her armor in the story, which is, I don't believe we've come across before.
I know there was one version of the story years and years and years ago in the Marvel universe, but I don't know that it's ever been discussed elsewhere. So,
yeah,
like I said, I have problems with holiday specials. Just so everybody's aware, this is how I usually present. Not a big fan of the holidays.
That's only took you 25 minutes to work in that that app.
Yeah, no. I'm not a big fan of this particular season. So, the holiday specials are always a little tough for me to get into. The Grimm one was fun because it was just a straight up horror story. It wasn't really holiday specific other than the Krampus. This one felt a little more like, okay, here, we're going to beat you about the head with it. But at least it made it interesting.
Yeah.
So. All right. We already did that one. Might as well do another Dynamite book right back to back.
Yeah. We do have 3 of them on the list this week.
Well, and this is a big deal.
Yeah. And it's also probably my favorite book of the week.
I think it's probably my second favorite.
Mm-hmm. This is basically Scott Lobdell doing the origin story of Evil Ernie with art by Ariel Miguel. But
right. Which was great.
Yeah.
And Evil Ernie was one of those characters that when Chaos, and who had it before? Did Hughes have it before Chaos? Or was it always at Chaos?
It was always Chaos, or it was basically
right.
Brian Pulido always had it. Until Chaos went bankrupt, it was always in Brian Pulido's hands.
All right. I couldn't remember if it started elsewhere and then went to Brian, or if it was always Brian.
Yeah.
Because it's been so long since we had a new Evil Ernie story.
Yeah, no, I think it actually did start at another company. It might have started at Malibu or something.
But it was always Brian.
Yeah, but it was always Brian doing it.
I couldn't remember if Evil Ernie came out with Lady Death or not.
Lady Death came on later.
Okay.
It started out just Evil Ernie.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, it's, you haven't had a new Evil Ernie story in, Lord, at least 10 years that I can remember.
Yeah.
Maybe longer. And I'm sure Nick could tell you. I don't know off the top of my head. But getting the origin story and dealing with Ernest before he became Evil Ernie was super interesting.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, this is one of those books that even after it went out of print, even if they stopped making it, it started Eternity Comics. Thank you, Lefty. People were always coming and asking for it at the store. It was like, you got any Evil Ernie? No, man, they haven't made Evil Ernie in like 20 years. You got any Evil Ernie? No. But, you know, it's always been popular and it's always sold.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like, so to have it back and to have it, I'm going to say this, and it's no knock on Brian, but someplace more stable than where Chaos was or where Eternity ever was, you know, so that this character can come out more regularly is a great thing for fans of this type of book, because it really is the kind of the benchmark.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I remember when Chaos started, they did a signing at a local shop here, and I went down and hung out that day. So I got to meet both Brian and Stephen Hughes, who sadly passed away way too young. But today is also Brian Polito's birthday.
Happy birthday, Brian Polito. We when I was working with CPSN, we had Coffin Comics and Brian Polito on doing shows. Really super nice guy. Really super. I think he learned a lot from the mistakes that were Chaos.
Yeah.
And built Coffin Comics really in a strong way, and has got that thing like running like a freight train. It's pretty cool to watch. Yeah.
Yeah. No, this book really got my attention because, like I said, it's an origin story. We almost get. I don't think we actually see Evil Ernie in the entire episode. I
think it's like the last page. It's one of those where you kind of start to see it come out.
Yeah, you start seeing but mainly it's Ernest Gluckman and Smiley. Right. That's pretty much, and we learn about his life prior to, the fact that he loves heavy metal but doesn't drink alcohol, and it's kind of an interesting character to see where he starts to where he ends up.
Right. So, It's definitely a needed backstory for sure. And I always like when you get characters that have been around as long as this one has, and you're finally getting the origin story. They just left it open for so long.
Yeah. I mean, I think they gave us back in the Eternity days, they gave us a brief thing, but it's kind of like Purgatory. Purgatory's origin was told like in 3 or 4 pages in a mini series, and I was able to actually expand on it into a novel, just dealing with the backstory, because these characters are very ripe for those histories.
Right. The one knock I have on this book, and why it's my second book this week, is that it felt at times like it was trying to be nostalgic.
Yeah.
For the sake of being nostalgic.
Yeah, I can see that.
It suffers in a very small way. I mean, very small. From the thing that Ready Player One, the new Ghostbusters movie, some of those things suffer from, where it can let the nostalgia get a little too heavy. This book it manages not to do that. Well, it still gets a little nostalgic for nostalgia's sake.
Yeah.
So, all right. Let's do this, Dan. Let's take a quick break.
All right.
When we come back, we've got a few more books and things that I didn't get to read, but I want to mention. There's some trades and stuff this week that I want to give honorable mention to. So, cool. We'll be right back in just a minute.
All right.
Click the thing, dummy.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit ComicShopLocator.com to find a store near you.
What's up, the internet? We are back. I am Kyle. He is Dan. This is In Stores This Week. And we are talking about books that are in stores this week. So, one of the books we both read is a book that I would have read anyway. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Animal Turtles, which I said it that way for a reason.
You're very muddled right now.
Is this better?
Yes.
Yeah, I had moved my microphone out of my way earlier to do a thing. So anyhow, this is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 123, a book that I would have read anyway. And I'm going to say the only negative words you're ever going to hear me say about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Right now, its pacing is off. Did you feel like this book was incredibly slow?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought it was incredibly slow and boring. You know, it's been a long time since I've read a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle book. They're not really my thing. But what I got was so not what I expected. They've definitely taken it into a completely different place with this whole mutant town or whatever they call it, where this.
Well, it's the same town it's always been, but now it's Mutant Town because of the. Okay, so this book takes.
Mutant bomb.
There's the mutant bomb and the everything's a mutanimal now.
Yeah, but Casey was inside and he's normal.
There's a number. Well, there are still humans. There are still regular people who didn't become mutanimals. For whatever reason, they don't know what that is, but the world is a much different place right now in the Ninja Turtles universe. And the problem is that the Turtles, by and large, have become uninteresting. Leonardo has turned into Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah.
His brothers all have regular jobs. Like the book doesn't move because the characters are not moving. And the only thing in this book that it to me was redemptive is the last couple of panels where Hobbs shows up. Because he is still a questionable character.
Yeah.
In terms of his intentions, in terms of his alignment, and the Turtles are caring for his kids.
Well, not very well.
Right. So it turns into this other kind of thing. So I would say this. If you're reading the Ninja Turtles, you obviously are going to keep reading the Ninja Turtles. You don't want to miss out because it's so serialized. But if you're not, this is not the place to jump in. I would go back 15 or so issues. Maybe it might be 13 issues to 110 and jump in about there. Or wait. I think this storyline is supposed to be over by like 1:30. But this is not the place to jump into the Turtles.
Are they going to undo Mutant Town?
Kevin doesn't tell me.
Because I read this, and it's like what always made the Turtles special, where they were these 4 ninja turtles in a regular world. You know, the fact that they were turtles in a human world made them very unique. Now they just come across as another mutant.
Right.
You know, and they blend it. That's why they have jobs and stuff.
Now, they are hugely respected. Like, it's one of those things it's like, I'm trying to think of what a good analogy for it would be. It would be like if Thor and Loki and Odin, or Thor and Sif and the other warriors quit being Odin's army and just got day jobs. They would still be hugely respected in Asgard.
Yeah.
But they would no longer be special. And that's where I think this book suffers a little bit. Now, if you do pick it up, check out the B cover, which is the Eastman cover. It's gorgeous. Or the RI is also gorgeous. The retailer incentive, I think it's a 1 in 10. They're both very pretty. Both Kevin Eastman art. But like I said, don't try and jump in here. You're going to be disappointed and it's going to turn you off. And that's not something I want.
All right.
Jennifer Blood, number 3.
Yeah.
So, do you remember when we talked about Jennifer Blood, number 2, and I was like,
Yep.
Still a little
Yeah. I think
better.
It was a great first episode or issue. Second episode was, and to me, this one isn't a lot better, but it's better.
Well, it's filling out. I think this book fills out the story, right? Like the second one was just so that this one, when added to it, kind of gives it a little more volume.
Yeah. This is Fred Van Lente and Vincenzo Federici. And as much as I do like this series, and the idea of there being this town full of, basically run by, it reminds me a little bit of Postal from Top Cow, the setup, the town that's run by criminals in the witness protection program. But I don't know. It just felt very off-brand for Jennifer. I liked the idea of her putting the things out there to allow those being hunted to fight back. I thought that was very cool. But we finally get the showdown between her and the sheriff character. I never remember her name because it's very... And then she doesn't finish it, which doesn't seem very Jennifer Blood to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's what I keep expecting to happen. And if it happens, then Fred Van Lente will have tricked me in 8 kinds of ways. Is for this to turn into what Matt Fraction did with Hawkeye. It's the reason Jennifer Blood isn't being all Jennifer Blood is that she can't be anymore. She's got a bad hip. She can't see. Something we don't know about is preventing her from being full Jennifer Blood, and we're waiting for a character to step up and fill the void or to become her protege.
Yeah.
And that would be great. I think that would be an interesting take, right? Because Jennifer Blood has been a one-woman wrecking crew since her inception. But I don't know that it's going to happen.
Yeah. Are you saying that Fraction, the Hawkeye's deafness, was what kept him from being the Hawkeye he used to be? Is that what you're...
in Fraction's run of Hawkeye. So let me take this down because we're gonna jump into something that's gonna be a thing going forward with the Hawkeye TV show.
Mm-hmm.
In Fraction's version of Hawkeye, Hawkeye was a fraction of himself.
Yeah, he was
in a lot of ways
incompetent and
in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
The analogy I'm making to Jennifer Blood is that I keep waiting to find out what it is that makes her a fraction of herself. Because it's what it feels like she is.
Yeah.
So in Fraction's run of Hawkeye, he's older. He can't hear. His vision is going. He's not as mobile. If you then go on to read Old Man Hawkeye, like it's what would happen if Dan or I tried to be Hawkeye. Mm-hmm. So, we're talking about Jennifer Blood, Nick.
We're just connected to
yes,
a very popular series right now.
So I keep waiting for Fred Van Lente to either take the training wheels off of his Jennifer Blood and let her go full Jennifer Blood, mm-hmm. or to introduce another character of some kind that does the bloody part.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And when it happens, I'm here for it, man. Like I'm enjoying it, even though I feel like it just feels like it has a little bit of a different feel for a Jennifer Blood book.
Most of the Jennifer Blood stuff I've read before always came across from Jennifer's point of view. And this very much feels like it's the sheriff's point of view.
That's true too. And I hadn't really thought about that. Do we not know what we don't know?
Yeah, maybe it's not Jennifer.
Well, and maybe if we were seeing it from Jennifer's point of view, all of the stuff we're going, well, we don't see her doing this, or we don't know if she's doing this, or whatever. It's actually happening, and we're just not seeing it in the story.
Yeah. Yeah,
right.
I mean, I do find Julieta kind of an interesting character. And, I'd like to know a little bit more about her backstory and stuff.
Right. I mean, that's kind of what I was alluding to, is that is Julieta the Kate Bishop of this Jennifer Blood story?
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I would be all over it. Like that would just blow my doors off. Like if that was what they decided to do, and I'd email Fred Van Lente tomorrow going, you are a freaking genius. But right now it just feels like maybe we don't know all of the stuff we would traditionally know in a Jennifer Blood story.
Good point. By the way, Nick's pointing out that please guys hit the like buttons, the subscribe buttons, those things. That helps us out a lot. I learned to speak just yesterday.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, and that had never occurred to me until he said, let's see what happens with Julieta, because I know Nick has a hard time holding his tongue when he knows things.
Yeah.
So that gives me a lot of momentum going forward that I felt like this book was missing.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that Jennifer Blood becomes a title passed on.
Is Jennifer Blood 007? Like, it's a they're not all the same person, but it's the same title with the same mission.
Yeah.
That would be dope.
Mm-hmm.
So Adrian says there's hope. Adrian, I've always had hope with this book. I mean, even when saying that the last issue felt a little flat and that this issue added more, it's Fred Van Lente and it's Jennifer Blood. They can always just crank that knob and make us all feel like idiots forever questioning it. So,
and Vincenzo's art on this is gorgeous.
Yeah,
he's doing a really good job, and the covers. As much as I like the Luca Parillo cover,
the
Linsner's cover is just a home run this time.
And there's also the D cover, the Yoon cover, that I quite like as well.
Yeah.
But of course, I'll wind up with I'll probably wind up with 3 covers of this book, including the Ken Hazer TMNT, because
That's right.
I'm your Huckleberry.
That's right. This is the one that gets the homage cover for Turtles. Yep.
So, all right. Next up on the list is Magic Masters of Metal #1 from Boom Studios. I struggled through this book. Largely because it's been so long since I played Magic the Gathering, I had to remember how to say some of the words.
Yeah, I will say that it started very slow to me, but I liked it by the end.
Yeah.
It's Marguerite Scott and no, let me pull that up real quick. I like giving the creators. So Marguerite Scott and
George
French Carlomagno.
Right.
Is they use a few. There's also George Coleo and Jacques Salomon. So it's got 3 different. It's also got the Jung Yun cover as well. The same guy you were just talking about in the other book.
This is the Yun cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's lettered by Ed Dukeshire. I got to throw his name out there because that's an old friend of mine, and I've done some work with him back in the digital webbing days. So it's nice to see him getting regular work. I think the thing that fascinated me about this is very much about the planeswalkers, which is a major part of Magic the Gathering. I mean, Tessakt is a planeswalker, Jace and Ravnica, but also there is a character that they're talking about, and it's Tezzeret's whole plan seems to be to unleash Merit Lodge. And I wasn't familiar with that name, but Merit Lodge is pretty much the magic equivalent of Cthulhu.
Yep.
So this is, we're watching pretty much a master plan of this guy putting together this plan, and it's like all these little bits he's doing, and he's having to really take a lot of physical damage to himself to do this. But he's got this master plan, and it involves like jabbing something into his eye so that when it gets pulled out, it gives this guy a flash of this god, and he ends up running with it. And it just down the line to going to a library to get his ass beat. So when he doesn't get the book he goes after, the person there looks at it and then tries to figure out, well, why did he want this book when that's all he wanted to do was to put that name in her head. So,
right. And I the thing I will say about Boom Studios Magic the Gathering books thus far, and I loved the IDW Magic the Gathering books, is that these books read a lot more like if you were giving narration to a game of Magic, as opposed to IDWs, which were the stories that take place in the universe, that just were like stories, like traditional comic book stories. These feel a lot more like these characters are making the same kind of decisions a player playing that character would make in a game of Magic, which is an interesting sort of way to read it, and feel about it.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah, I can see that. I haven't played a lot of Magic. I've played a couple years back, and I've got some cards. I have a couple decks, but I just haven't played that much.
I started playing Magic when I was about 5, and then I stopped when I was about 30. I played Magic a long time. And I only stopped just because I was owning a store and I was seeing my magic profits slip because I was keeping product. So I had to stop.
I did find it interesting that he's willing to do all this sacrifice and beat the crap out of himself or get himself beaten, but he's not willing to even have a tiny little flaw in his servant.
And yeah, no, it's true, and that's a thing that you have happen. That's kind of a game style decision.
Yeah,
You know, when you're playing these walkers. Adrian, I still play, but I only play certain formats. I only play Legacy or Unlimited, and I usually only play at certain gaming conventions with certain groups of people who also play those kind of formats. It gets pretty ridiculous when we're all going, okay, can we all just agree that we have the full power of 9 and that we've all got a Lotus and that we're not really worried about whether or not they're proxied or not because none of us want to carry around that much money? You know, and people are going, wait, what? Yeah, I've still got my alpha cards. Not gonna, you know.
Two things.
Mhm.
One, when I first got into comics and I put out my first comic book myself, I paid for the cover from artist Walter McDaniel with magic cards. One of the guys backing us basically, he wanted these magic cards, and this guy Bob went out and got the cards he needed. I believe a Black Lotus was one of the cards. That shows you how long ago this was.
Mm-hmm.
And Walter had this incredible set. Walter McDaniel had this incredible set of magic cards, and then he left them on an airplane and never saw them again. Yeah.
I'm not okay, but we'll move on. I did this. Dan just did to me what I did to Dan before his show this afternoon. So we'll just
imagine walking onto an airplane, finding a folder of all these great magic cards, including a Black Lotus in the mid-90s, and going, tuck.
Yeah, no, for sure. So real quick, before I talk about the last book that I read, and I don't know if Dan got a chance to read it or not.
I did.
Okay. I wanted to mention a couple of trades that are coming out this week. Which is Screw on Head and Other Curious Objects by Mike Mignola. This is a collection, a big hardcover collection, that are some of the other stories that Mike has done adjacent to the Hellboy universe.
Yeah.
Kind of in one of those anthology collections like Neil Gaiman likes to do.
Wasn't there an animated Screw on Head movie that aired for once?
I'm not entirely sure.
I believe there was.
It sounds right.
Yeah.
So, and then for those of you who want to read some classics but maybe don't have the pocket to go out and buy the single issues, The Amazing Spider-Man. This is the Mighty Marvel Masterworks Amazing Spider-Man. This is the Sinister Six.
Why they're putting that out now?
Yeah.
Return of Dr. Octopus. That seems interesting timing.
Yeah, the timing. Well, and there's some other books that are coming out that the timing seems a little about, like
Warlock. Yes.
Yeah.
Jim Starlin's Warlock. But that's going to be a while before we see Warlock in the MCU.
Right, but this is the Gallery Edition hardcover. So again, some of these books are really hard to come by. This is a great way to get them and read them, and then to be able to collect them. And then the last one, Conan the Barbarian, Queen of the Black Coast. This is one of, in my opinion, one of the best runs that Marvel had. Savage Sword of Conan, #1, and then Conan the Barbarian 43 through 59. Just like, I think this was the high point of that first volume.
Yeah.
Marvel. So
cool. That's what, Roy Thomas and John Buscema?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I loved the Roy Thomas stuff so much on Conan. All right. Then the last book we read this week is King of Spies by Mark Millar and Matteo Scalera. This is my favorite book of the week.
Yeah, I'm still going with Evil Ernie.
It was close. It was 1 and 1A. And the reason I liked this book is that, to me, this book felt cinematic already. This felt like something that he was writing for Netflix.
Yeah.
Cult of Dracula paperback is fantastic, Adrian, but that's not on the release schedule this week. But I will say this, Source Point's release schedule is kind of whatever they make it. So the site we use to get these books together is not always entirely accurate. So this is the story of a guy who spent his whole career as a super spy. Right? He is The Rock in any of those movies. He is James Bond in any of those movies. He is Mr. Bean. And no, I'm kidding. He's the Pink Panther. No. He's been, you get the feeling like he's been the silver bullet that the government sends in when nobody else can do the job, and he can do the job.
Yeah. It's basically James Bond. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I read the whole book and then I looked at the cover. I didn't read it with an English accent, and now I wish I had.
I was a little split on the book. The opening, it felt more like a pastiche or a parody of James Bond, because there was a lot of those moments of, well, how the hell did he do that? Like getting on the moving airplane. That just kind of gets brushed over. So basically all the stuff in the past lost me. I'm like, whatever. It wasn't until we find him older in the modern day that I actually got interested in the story.
Well, and I wonder how much of that is the memories, the fish story kind of, like I had 4 touchdowns in one game for Polk High.
Yeah.
Kind of story where it's the details are less relevant than the outcomes.
Did you just Married with Children us?
I did.
Wow.
I'm having a good reference day, Dan.
Yeah, it's been one of those days, hasn't it?
But no, it's the details are less relevant than the outcomes. Because it shows that, he was the guy who went in and did this thing with Noriega.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now we can set it in a time in reality. And we're in the future now, and the guy's kind of old and past his prime, and talking about how, he's in more of an administrative role. But he still itches for it.
Yep. And he questions a lot of the things that he was asked to do.
Right.
Where at the time he was a hired gun. He went in the direction they pointed him. And now he looks at England and the world and thinks that maybe the people that they helped put into power weren't the people that should have been put into power. Or
even if they were, that the methods maybe weren't the best. And so you find this guy late in life dealing with all this, and then he gets... his life takes a dramatic change, and instead of just kind of being happy and settling with his lot in life, he decides that he's going to do something different about it, and that he is going to try to, in a way, right some of the wrongs that he has perpetrated.
Mm-hmm. By the way, after reading this, I can guarantee you that at some point in an informative part of his life, Mark Millar read To Kill a Mockingbird.
100%.
Yes. Because every writer who reads To Kill a Mockingbird at a certain point in their life eventually makes a character named Atticus.
Yeah, it's true.
Yep.
Either that or he's a really big fan of the band Tool. Or 9 Inch Nails.
Yeah.
Or any of the other bands that Atticus Finch has worked with.
Mm-hmm.
Or Atticus, what's his name? Ross.
Yeah, Atticus Ross. Yeah.
So, this is King of Spies. Like I said, it really feels cinematic from the outset.
Mm-hmm.
Matteo Scalera's art is dope. So,
this would be an interesting take on a James Bond story.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I would love to see. The only actor who could still do it would be to bring back Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, absolutely.
And let him play it as late in life James Bond.
Yep.
I would love to see them do that with that series. I don't think they ever will, but it would certainly be a choice.
Yeah. Well, they could do it in novels or in the comics. I mean,
sure. I mean, I'm just talking about in film.
Yeah.
On screen, like it would have to be Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah. See, I look at these books and it's like this or Kingsman are expanding on the idea, the concept that James Bond really made popular in a way that I think that the James Bond franchise owners really should do more of. You could have built an entire universe around the 00, so you could have had multiple 00s. Everybody's like, well, the next James Bond should be an African American or black guy. The next James Bond should be a woman. It doesn't have to be, because you've got all these 00 numbers you could do. You could make all these unique characters and make series of movies based on these characters. But I just feel that they haven't really pushed the franchise, and other people are coming along and doing stories like King of Spies that is really taking the concept in a different direction.
I will say this. I think the pushing of the franchise has been at Dynamite Comics.
Yeah.
They have done a very good job of shepherding the James Bond franchise in print. And they really have forwarded the story on a lot with their work with the character. I mean, it's been every series that they've done has been absolutely fantastic. So I think that's where the work is being done at the moment. I would like to see some of the other places that the James Bond story exists either come along and just license the stupid Dynamite books and start doing them, or
Dynamite books, I believe, are actually, and if Nick's still on, he could verify this. They go back to the Ian Fleming novels, not to the movies.
Right.
So, what I've really liked about them is when they do stuff like Felix Leiter gets a series.
Right.
Moneypenny gets a series. So I'd really love to see that universe expanded on more.
Right. That's exactly it. The work is being done there.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see everybody else come along and take the risks and do the work that they're doing. So,
yes. So you want to shake up the James Bond franchise? Make a 00 that's actually American raised. Born in Britain, raised in America, comes back and comes in, and you've got this American butting up against all of the Englishness.
0076 or something. Like, make it a reference to 1776. Like, yeah, it's Mark Millar kind of wrote Old Man Bond, but I'll be honest, the other story that I was going to draw, and this is why I haven't taken it down yet. If you read this and you're looking for other things that feel this way, check out Deathbed from Vertigo or DC, I guess. I think it was one of their DC Vertigo, but written by Josh Williamson, art by Riley Rossimo. Came out a few years ago. Checked out Deathbed. But this I really enjoyed this book, and yes, it does feel like King of Spies is old man Bond in a lot of ways. So
yep. If Connery hadn't passed, he would have been perfect.
Yeah. I don't know how he'd have done it the actiony bits, but he'd have been great.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, this has been In Stores this week. If you guys come up with a better name for what we're doing here, send it to us. Dan and I are looking. But we will be back next week with more books that we've read. And Dan will be back tomorrow with the writer of Periwinkle.
Yeah, Scott Wilkie, writer
Scott
of
Wilkie.
Periwinkle. We have that interview. And Thursday we'll be talking about episode 3 of Hawkeye.
Absolutely. So stay tuned the rest of the week for all of our great shows. Again, Dan will be back tomorrow, and then Rex and John will be tomorrow afternoon after Dan. Thursday we have Dan again, and then What's in the Box with Miss Jen, and then our late night show with Henri, Kicking It with Henri. And then we'll be back Friday for Nick's original art show. And Friday Night Live with Nancy and virtual signings with Henri, as well as some other fun stuff happening this weekend. So
Pop Go the Writers.
Pop Go the Writers will be, I think Pop Go the Writers, I got to figure that out. So we will let you know when Pop Goes the Writers is later on this week, and we will see everybody next time.
Good night, everybody. Have a good one.
I gotta click the thing. All right, here we go.